Hello, Bronco fans and football fans everywhere. Welcome to Broncos Breakdown on the MHRT network. This is a show that is everything Broncos and brought to you with not just myself, but that guy. Well, wait a minute, this guy, Mario Vetanze, the one and only Italian body healing guru in Denver, Colorado. Mario, my gosh, thank you so much for being here. Really do appreciate it. Love the shades, by the way, dude.
I'm trying to make them my signature thing, and thank you for that intro. One of my favorite things about coming on your show, and the reason I'm always so willing to do it, you give me the best intros, Bill. Nobody else, like of all the other shows that I do, and if I've done your show and you're listening, I'm talking to you, okay? I never get an intro the way that Bronco Bill gives me an intro, okay? So that's why this show is at the top of my priority list.
Hey, don't have any more barbs thrown at me than I have from the other guys on the network. That's all good, man. So
they need to know. They need Bro, they need. I just kept saying, okay. They need to understand the hierarchy. You know what I'm saying? So at the top of this hierarchy, in my book, no, Mundungus can hear this. I don't care. Okay, bearded blur, that's what we call him. The hierarchy, according to Mario Vetanze, okay, is Bronco Bill, and then everybody else just kind of gets in where they fit in right down here, okay? That's how it is.
All right, well, thanks for coming on the show, Mario. I hope I'm still on the air. I'm not just kidding. Mario, earlier on, we were talking, before we came on the show, we were talking about family and stuff like that, and I understand, you just, have a 2.5-year-old, almost 2.5-year-old son. I'd like to do a little bit of family stuff because I don't really get to do that with a lot of people. So let everybody out there that's out there, and welcome to everybody on the across the different networks that we have watching the show. Mario, if you would, please tell me how it feels to be a parent. With a 2.5 or almost 2.5-year-old.
I mean, first and foremost, it's the greatest thing ever, right? My little boy Jericho was born September of 2021, and ever since then, it's just like it's weird looking back and imagining how your life was before your kids are born, right? And if you're watching and you have kids, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. You think back to when that first child is born, and it's just like, it's almost like a rebirth for you as a person. Like, I know that's how I felt. And I look back and it's like, we have these different stages in our lives. And I feel like there's no bigger transition from one stage to another when you go from like pre-parenthood to then parenthood. So, and as incredible as it is, it's as equally as chaotic, right? And if you have, oh, you know what, Glenn?
Come on, Glenn.
We're trying to have a nice moment, okay, Glenn? And Glenn, honestly, Bill, I think Glenn's just upset that you got so much more hair than him, okay?
Wow.
See, what happens is Glenn's wife doesn't even own a mirror, okay? She could just look right into Glenn's head, and she just uses that. They save thousands of dollars a year on mirrors. I guarantee it. Anyway, Glenn, we're trying to have a very touching, tender moment here. We're trying to be real. You ruined it, Glenn. And if there's anybody at MHRT that I would think would ruin a great moment, it's Glenn. Okay? And I got something in store for Glenn later, but we'll get to that. We're gonna circle back. We're gonna reconvene, right? Okay. We're not gonna let Glenn tried to ruin the show, Bill. I'm not gonna let it happen. Okay. Typical Glenn Hauser behavior. Anyway. As amazing as it is to be a father, and if you have a little boy, if you have a little son, or had one at some point, they're insane. He is pure energy. He's like the Energizer Buddy, never runs out of energy. The funniest thing is like he'll be going crazy and like going wild. And typically the grandparents, right, or other people will be like, oh man, he's gonna be tired, he's gonna sleep well, he's gonna nap well. Nope, doesn't mean anything. He could go run around for 4 hours straight, and then he will nap for 20 minutes, and then he will wake up, and he will do it all again for 4 hours straight and not miss a beat. They are just limitless energy, but, man, it is so fun. It is such an incredible blessing. And honestly, like, I'm glad that you wanted to talk about this, Bill, because I wanted to tell a story, and I just feel like I don't have a lot of opportunities to tell this story. It's like that really means a lot to me that, has to do with my son. So anybody watching, if you're unaware, my dad was a chiropractor for 50 years. I tried my best to, follow in his footsteps, learn everything that he did and take the lessons that he gave me. And in February of 21, which was 7 months before my son was born, he unfortunately passed away.
But sorry to hear that, Mario.
Thank you. Yeah. Now, if you look back, October of 2020, he started working on my wife because we had been trying to conceive for probably a little bit over a year, kind of on and off. And my wife would go over and he had metastatic cancer and he had it for several years. And so, of course, during COVID, he had to be really careful about working. And so he worked some from his house, but my wife would go over to his house. He had a table in his basement and he would work on her. And he could tell that she was getting frustrated. Like, the best thing that he did as a healer and as a person was he could connect with people and he could read people. And he kind of said to her, like, I know that you're frustrated. I know that you've been trying a long time. I know this is a difficult time for you. He said, give it 3 months. Give it 3 months, get treatment consistently, and you'll get pregnant. And by God, Bill, 3 months later, exactly, we find out that Lauren is pregnant with Jericho. And the last conversation that I ever had with my dad, and unbeknownst to me at the time, like, I didn't know this was going to be the last conversation that we would ever have. I got to tell him that Lauren was pregnant and that we were going to have a baby. And it just meant so much to see his reaction. And for me to know that he knew that he had helped, right? Like, through the power and the miracle of his treatments, and sure enough, in the exact time frame that he had given, it was just absolutely incredible. And fast forward 7 months, Jericho was born actually in the exact same hospital where I lost my dad. And so part of it, I think leading up to it, it was difficult for me to kind of comprehend. But then as I got closer to the date, and then especially like when we're in the hospital room as she's going into labor, it was this feeling of peace.
Your
right?
dad
That
was
just kind
there,
of
dude. Your dad was there.
It washed over me, absolutely. And it was like the circle of life, right? And yeah, so I've always wanted to share that story. I never really had a context to do so, but I guess moral of the story is the Lord works in mysterious ways, and the circle of life is a very real thing. And obviously to hug your loved ones, tell them you love them. You never know. Yep. You never know. And so I was glad that I was able to have, that lasting memory with my dad, and that he knew that he helped us have our son.
Yeah. And Mario, I'm glad that I'm glad you were able to share that on this platform. I mean, that's amazing. Amazing story. And you know what? You're right. You never know, man. You never know. Parents know a lot of things before they check out. I don't mean that disrespectful, obviously.
No, for sure.
Glenn Hauser was trying to make amends. You want to read that?
Yeah, Glenn said amazing story about your dad. He was there. Absolutely, Glenn. I mean, I felt his presence. I feel like my wife did too, and it was incredible. Yeah, I mean, I really can't put into words, but I just, as difficult as that time was, because having those two things happen in the same year, it's like it was simultaneously the best and worst year of my life. And if you've lost a parent, it's the most difficult thing that you'll ever have to go through. And my condolences if any of you have been through it. And again, it's in a weird way, it kind of parallels fatherhood. It's like nothing can prepare you for it. Even if you're expecting it, it completely catches you off guard. And it's just like a whirlwind. And it's like when you're in the moment, minutes feel like hours, hours feel like days. And then you kind of get past that initial reaction. And once you kind of get past that like first stage, it kind of crystallizes, and you look back and you think, I don't know how I got through that, right? And it's weird the parallels that we see between two things like that, but it's like, you know, as time goes on, it gets easier, and then you'll kind of retroactively look back and say, I don't know how I made it through those first few months. And then, you know, you kind of start to feel a rhythm and things kind of normalize, and then you go from there.
Exactly. All right. Thanks so much, Mario, for sharing that. That's just awesome stuff. I love talking about parenthood and being a grandparent and all that.
Me too, man. Yeah.
Let's shift into some football before we go down memory lane too much, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I love it. Okay. A couple of topics I want to touch first and foremost. I'm going to get into a lot of different directions. I don't know if I'm going to cover all the topics because we could be on here for 3 hours, which is probably not what we want to do.
That's for sure.
So let's start out with your thoughts, personally, your thoughts on a possible, in my opinion, a possible replacement for Von Miller of yesteryear by bringing in Malcolm Roach from the Saints. What do you think? And I know they're two different people, but is this the next type of Von Miller?
I wouldn't necessarily have that comp. I think he's more of an interior guy, but I think in terms of like a presence on the defensive line, I thought it was a really good signing by the Broncos. And Mundungus has asked me how I like the bobblehead. I love the bobblehead. It's wildly inappropriate and sorry we keep getting derailed between Glenn and Mundungus. It's just it's
the MHRT bubble. It's the MHRT brain hair.
Yeah. I know. I thought of the bobblehead. So the thing is, they got me this bobblehead that has my likeness, like my face.
You want me to show you, Mario? He sent it to me.
Yeah, let me see it. Let's see it. You got it. Yeah,
okay.
Let me see it.
Hang on.
This way people have a visualization. I have to describe it.
Oh, God. Are you ready? You sure you want me to show it?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Look at that thing. Look at that thing. I opened this thing up in the mail. Of course I love that. But here's the thing. I can't have that up in my office. Like, I got, soft-minded people that might get offended by something like that. Like, I can't just put it on display. I got to hide it. And then my wife don't want it because she wondering why I don't actually look like that in real life. Because that would figure he got like abs for days and he's all like cut up. Like, yeah, man, like in high school I used to look like that. And like the six-pack's still under there somewhere. We just got insulation. But anyway, man, it's okay. Listen, Bill, they can try to throw us off track all they want.
We're doing a good job.
Back on track. Because listen, we're professionals and they're just a couple of yahoos, okay? The bobblehead was so accurate, even the potato was in the front. Okay, Glenn, thank you so much for that. I don't even really know what that means, so we're just gonna press on ahead. That must be a shiny bald thing. You know what I'm saying? Like if you have zero hair, maybe that's just how your brain works, and some silly shit like that makes sense to you. Anyway, I really like the Malcolm Roach signing. It's been, his injury history, it kind of raises some concern, but obviously he passed the physical, he signed, he's all good. This just is the kind of signing that they need to make right now, Bill. I think it's really obvious that they're in rebuilding mode. They get rid of a guy like Justin Simmons, and if you're a good team and you think that you're going to compete, you don't do something like that. Play simple. And part of me, and here's the way I'm coping with this, part of me and my knee-jerk reaction is to say, man, we're not going to be very good next year, are we? Like, Jared Stidham's our quarterback one right now. We got rid of one of our top wide receivers. We traded Jerry Jeudy away. Released Justin Simmons, which I don't want to harp on too much because it'll just piss me off and make me sad.
I'm not going to go down. I'm not going to go down.
No, yeah, obviously they released Russell Wilson. I mean, they don't re-sign a guy like Josie Jewell. They don't re-sign Lloyd Cushenberry. It's very obvious what they're doing. And you know what? More power to them. This is what really we've needed kind of ever since the Paxton Lynch era came to a crashing halt, okay? They kept trying to put makeup on a pig. They kept trying to, fix the leak of a dam with a Band-Aid. And it just didn't happen, Bringing in guys like Case Keenum and Joe Flacco and Teddy Bridgewater, you're delaying the inevitable, right? Mm-hmm. And the way that I see it, Bill, and from a quarterback standpoint, is there's 3 different tiers. Tier 1 is you have your franchise guy. He's locked in. Tier 2 is you think you might, but you're not really sure. And then tier 3 is you know that you don't have your guy. You need to go get your franchise guy. And it felt like the Broncos were kind of wallowing in that 2-3 range ever since Peyton Manning, because there was never a time ever since that Super Bowl year where we as Bronco fans have been like, this is our guy. We thought it was with Russell Wilson. We thought maybe it was with Drew Lock, but no quarterback has gone an entire season and made you feel good about the direction of the team. And so now that leads us here. So even though they're about 5, 6, 7 years late for this rebuild, at least it's finally happening, and at least they're committing to it. And the way that I'm coping with it, and I'm saying to myself, like, man, we're not going to be very good. And then I think, you haven't really been that good since we won the Super Bowl. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, we won 5 games in Russell Wilson's first year. We were one of the most putrid offenses in the history of the NFL, it felt like. It's like, Payne, what more can you do to me? What more can you do to us as Bronco fans? We are numb. And you know what? It's okay. Because now at least we're finally starting over. We have a competent head coach who clearly, at least I hope, has some sort of a plan to get us back pointed in the right direction. And unfortunately, it always has to start with a full teardown.
Yeah, unfortunately. I'm going to ask you a question, okay? Do we roll with Stidham or push all of our chips into the middle of the table, into the draft, and move up to get either J.J. McCarthy or Bo Nix?
So here's the way I see it. If you want to move up for a quarterback, like if you want to get, let's play hypothetical here, and like how I'll tell you how I think it shakes out. Caleb Williams is going to go number 1. Either Drake May or Jaden Daniels will go number 2. I'm starting to lean Jaden Daniels, but there's no way to know. But let's say, hypothetically, Jaden Daniels goes 2. Then you have the Patriots at 3. They could also draft a quarterback, or they could trade back, which I think is kind of where I'm leaning right now is more likely to happen unless they're really sold on whoever the 3rd quarterback is. 4th pick is the Arizona Cardinals. That, to me, feels like the point that you have to move up to in the draft if you want to take either Drake May or J.J. McCarthy, or maybe Jaden Daniels. Again, depending on how the board shakes out, it'll be one of those 3 who is at 4. Now, the reason that I don't think that you can go up to 5 is because the Chargers aren't going to want to trade with you and allow a team in their division to draft, potentially their quarterback of the future. At 6, you have the New York Giants, who are now quarterbacked by Denver Broncos legend Drew Lock. And we all know how that's going to go. And so I have a really hard time believing that the Giants don't take a quarterback. And I think it's the Vikings at 11, and now what the Vikings have done, who already are drafting in front of the Broncos, they have now added through Houston another first-round pick. I believe it's number 23. So, Bill, now they have a package where they can trade all the way up and go get the quarterback that they want. Because right now, I don't really even know who's there. I think Sam Darnold, right?
Sam Darnold.
And Sam Darnold, you know that they don't want Sam Darnold to be their week 1 starter. And so it's really murky. The Broncos don't have a lot of ammunition. It's like if they want to throw the kitchen sink, like I'm sure that there is some sort of price that they can pay to move up into the top 4. Now, the other option, if you're not wanting to stay pat at 12, is you move back. So the other guy that you had mentioned was Bo Nix. If you're wanting a Bo Nix, the way that I see it, and I'm not a huge proponent of like trading back and still hoping that your guy falls to you, like when it comes to quarterback. Typically when you're talking quarterbacks, it's like, if that's your guy, go get him, don't wait. But you also have to be smart because the Broncos don't have a lot of draft picks, don't even have a 2nd-round pick this year. They have to do some manipulating, and so the best case scenario, if Bo Nix is their guy, like if Bo Nix is the guy that Sean Payton wants to roll with, I see him as a late 1st, early 2nd-round guy. Like his stock reminds me a lot of Will Levis, where people were kind of high on him. They were maybe for a while considering him a top 10, top 15 pick. And then now as more information has kind of come out and you're kind of getting scouts' opinions, he's dropping towards the back of the board a little bit. I'm also a big proponent on if you're going to take a quarterback that you're sold on, I want you to take him in the first round so that you have that fifth-year option. Because on the off chance that you do hit, and obviously you hope that you hit, you have that extra year of a cost-controlled rookie contract, and it's just like an extra year of savings, basically, right? So that's kind of the way I see it. It's like if you want a J.J. McCarthy, you're probably going to have to trade up into the top 8 and honestly more likely like the top 4, top 5 right now. If you want a guy like Bo Nix, again, I don't love the idea of taking him at 12 because I think he's going to be a late first, very early second round type of player. And I guess the best case scenario for that is like maybe they like Bo Nix, but it's not like Bo Nix's make or break, right? So you have your guy, but you don't necessarily need to be hyper aggressive to take him. So the Broncos can trade back into the first round, maybe even a couple times. They stockpile picks because this is the other portion of rebuilding a team. They've already torn everything down. They've done that part, Bill. Like that's the crappy part. That's the part that sucks. Now, this is kind of the dicey part, and this is the divisive part, and it's the fun part. You have to start building it back up. And with signings like Malcolm Roach, a young, very good run-defending defensive tackle, cheap in terms of the market, those are the signings that you have to make, where at the same time, you're having to hit on the draft at least like a 50% tick. So trading back at this point, just because I no longer think it's plausible with things that have happened that the Broncos are going to trade all the way up into the top 5 to get their quarterback. So if you are a Bo Nix believer, if you're a Michael Penix kind of guy, best case scenario for me, like I said, trading back into the first, stockpiling some more picks, even if you're stockpiling picks for next year, get as many picks as possible because the more picks you have, the more likely you are to hit on some. And that's how you start rebuilding your team. But I honestly think that Bronco fans need to come to grips with the fact that Jarrett Stidham very well most likely will be our week 1 starter. Hey, Kamani, how's it going? Thanks for saying what's up.
Hey, Kamani. Hey, by the way, I don't think we really have to worry about a quarterback because according to what I saw a couple of times, Chiotti has said that you are going to be the Broncos' next quarterback. Is that true?
Okay,
Come on, Mario.
we gotta
spill the beans.
We gotta talk about this because Pat is hilarious. All right, this is I can't remember if he's done this once or twice before, but he at the very least did this last year. And it's funny because Pat has a pretty decent following, and for whatever reason, like these past 2 years now that Pat has done this, and for context, Pat has tweeted out and said, Broncos agreed to terms with quarterback Mario Vetanze, 2 years for $1 million. Okay? So the majority of Patrick's followers know who I am. They know it's a joke. It's all kind of fun and games. And that was how it started. Like, Pat was just being silly.
But then he was
getting all of these responses. Like, the tweet blew up in, like, the most inexplicable way. And so the funniest thing, it's like half the comments on his tweet are like, who? I've never heard of this guy. I tried to find him on YouTube. He doesn't even have a highlight reel on YouTube. What is he? Is he from the CFL? What is he from overseas? Like, is there a football league in Europe that's not soccer? Like, how do we know this guy? And my favorite responses are the people who like don't know me and they don't know that it's a joke, but they act like they know me as Mario Vetanze, the quarterback, which is fiction, right? Those are my favorite people, the ones that, like, they try so hard to act like they know ball that they have no idea that they're exposing themselves for not knowing anything. So, honestly, maybe this will become, like, a yearly tradition that Pat does. It's just, like, around this time, like, during free agency every year, until the Broncos, God willing, finally find their franchise quarterback, Pat will just keep saying it's me, and then we'll have to deal with a whole bunch of random accounts that sound like confused owls saying, who?
Oh,
It's not a real story. I wish. Listen, and I would be more than happy, Bill, to get paid $1 million to help this team tank, go 0-17, and then draft Shedeur Sanders first overall. I would gladly fall on that grenade. And Pat said 2 years, and that would be great. But I would even do it in 1. You only need to put up with me for 1 year, give me $1 million, and we'll call it good. You get your quarterback of the future, and maybe my key card will work longer than expected. Oh, Glenn said, I knew it was fake. You weren't going to take a pay cut. That's true, Glenn, because everybody knows that the most selfish quarterbacks do not take pay cuts.
Oh,
yeah.
Who?
I'm not naming names.
Oh, man. That's good stuff. Let me see what I got here. Let me ask you. Okay. This is a good one. What would it take? Okay, if obviously we're not satisfied with having Jared Stidham as our he's right now he's basically our bridge quarterback, correct? Stidham. Okay. So what would it take for Denver to get their guy? What would it take? What would they have to move up in the draft? I mean, what in your opinion, Mario, what would it take for the Broncos to get their guy, whoever that guy is?
I mean, like I said, I think if you want to get your guy, and it depends on who their guy is, there were reports that Sean Payton really likes J.J. McCarthy. There were reports that he really likes Drake May. I don't think Caleb Williams is remotely a possibility because Bears are going to take him first overall. If you like Jaden Daniels, like I said, it seems more likely like he's going 2 overall. And so in a perfect world, you find a way to go up to number 2 somehow, some way, and you get the guy that goes after Caleb Williams, whether it be Jaden Daniels, Drake May, or J.J. McCarthy, whoever you think is your guy.
Okay,
so
let me ask
if you're talking about that big pull, yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, because this is part of what you're going to say. Yeah. When I meant, well, what's it going to take? Do we have to give up a Patrick Surtain? Do we have to give up a Cortland Sutton? Do we have to give up a Javonte Williams? What's it going to be?
Honestly, I think it's going to take picks. And I know that there are a lot of people out there who will try to do mental gymnastics and try to talk themselves and talk other Bronco fans into trading a guy like Pat Surtain. And the bottom line is, it's not smart, okay? Pat was, I think, the 10th overall pick in the draft. And so that's where his value starts, right? Patrick Surtain is at his bare minimum worth the 10th overall pick of the draft because that's where they drafted him. And to be honest, he has far exceeded a lot of expectations. I think a lot of people thought that he would be good. I don't think many people thought that he would be like best corner in the league, top 3 non-debate good, right? And so here's the thing that I don't understand. Like, if you're trying to build up a good team, you don't trade away a generational player in an attempt to get better. Mm-hmm. I mean, we as Bronco fans were very familiar when Champ Bailey was traded to us for Clinton Portis. And I remember at the time, I loved Clinton Portis. He was a patient of my dad's, super cool guy. I was furious. I thought that it was such a stupid trade for us. I think he was the offensive rookie of the year. He rushed for like 1,500 yards. And I just didn't understand it. And it turned out that was a fantastic value. And Clinton Portis was solid in Washington, but he didn't remotely have the career post-trade that Champ Bailey did. So now we come here, and it's like, that you have, for my money, the best player at his position on the field, period. You can debate all you want, and I'll give you top 3, but bottom line is you do not get rid of your – yes, Carter, this is new Broncos quarterback Mario Vetanze. What's up? Bottom line is you don't get rid of your best players who are young, who are on their rookie contract still,
right?
And try to build your team. Like, you need good players. You don't just flush it all out. So it's like, here's the thing. Draft picks are lottery tickets, okay? The higher ones that you have, the bigger payout that you get. Lottery tickets are never guaranteed to pay out the same as draft picks. So what you are proposing is that you take this piece, Patrick Surtain, who's basically worth $1 million. And you're like, sure, $1 million is good. But I'm going to trade it for this lottery ticket, and maybe I'll win $1 million and some change. It's like, you already won the lottery once. Stop playing it. Keep your funds and just go about your day. That's how I see it. So it's like, would it take that, Bill? Probably.
I'm sorry, dude. I got.
And Luigi's going to be the wide receiver. That's fantastic. That's
Mario
fantastic.
and Luigi.
Yeah, I need to see a Super Mario football game at some point. They've done every other sport.
That's great. Sorry to derail you, man.
That's fine. We're used to it. This is a fun show, and we stick and move. We roll with the punches. No, it probably would take something like that, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, what if you trade away the 12th overall pick? Like let's say that you want to go to number 1 or number 2, like one of those two. Like you're gonna have to sell the farm.
Right.
First round pick this year. First round pick next year. Probably the first round pick in 2026, second round pick next year, maybe a third round pick this year, maybe a future pick in 2026, and maybe pass or tan. Like the asking price would be really, really, really high.
But see, here's the problem with Mario.
Here's
the problem I have with all of this stuff, okay? We know, and I've said this on my show many, many times. Anybody out there knows. I've mentioned this. We know what we have in PS2. You never know what you have in a draft pick. It could be a Patrick Mahomes. It could be a Drew Lock. It could be a Brock.
It could be a Josh Rosen. It could be a Josh Rosen who was if I'm not mistaken, was also the 10th overall pick.
Yeah.
And for every PS2, Bill, there are a dozen Josh Rosens. For every dude that you draft in the top 10 who becomes a perennial All-Pro and Pro Bowler, there are dozens of guys who bounce around or who are out of their league or who are just take up space on rosters, who would dream of having one season remotely as good as Pat Surtain. And instead, as Bronco fans, we are locked in to that kind of contribution for hopefully the remainder of his career, for what could be 12 years, like a decade worth of service. And you're telling me that this surefire thing that you have, you want to risk your future on that? That is the same mistake that we have made. Bill, how did it work out for us when we gave up a bunch of draft picks for Russell Wilson?
Not good.
Very, very, very bad. And I know it's the inverse, but you think about it. You thought you knew what you were getting out of Russ. It was a big lottery ticket, and you busted.
Yep.
You have to stop mortgaging your future to try and find a quick fix.
Yep.
It's okay to be aggressive, but the state that they're at now, you cannot afford to lose the best player on your team. Like, head and shoulders best player on your team. I don't care what it would take to get that first pick. You don't include Pat Surtain in that.
Absolutely.
And I will argue that until I'm blue in the face.
Absolutely. I'm not going to get into the topic of the show just yet. I want to touch, I don't mean to be sensitive, but I want to touch a topic because I want your insight perspective. We signed Brandon Jones from the Miami Dolphins, a safety, to replace the legendary safety we never should have gotten rid of. What's your thoughts on that? Real quick. I don't want to get into any personal things.
I know. And I'll just kind of blaze through it. It's like, here's the thing. You can't replace Justin Simmons. He's not going to replace Justin Simmons. It's just not going to happen. There's a better chance that P.J. Locke ends up playing that free safety position and Jones kind of ends up playing more the strong and like down into the box. And then Caden Stearns, kind of does a little bit of both. Caden Stearns is probably the most similar safety to Justin Simmons in terms of like how like his brain and how he's able to process and like the position that he plays. He'll probably play a little bit of dime. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of work those three guys in. But yeah, that's the thing. You can't replace a Justin Simmons. It's impossible. He is a premium player at an unfortunately unpremium position, and kind of like how we saw with running backs recently, where up until this year, there was no value for running backs, and that's kind of how the safety market is starting to get hit. Because it wasn't just Justin Simmons. There were a lot of really good safeties that were without teams heading into this free agency period, and the league is cyclical. It's kind of sinusoidal, There will be times, there'll be a time maybe a few years down the road that the safety position is a boom and it's all the rage. And it's just unfortunate that this is the year that Justin was released because the whole league is down on safeties. And so, yeah, like, again, but similar to Roach, like, this is the kind of signing that the Broncos need to make. It's not big and splashy. It's not necessarily like a household name kind of guy, but it's cheap. He's a really solid player, much like Roach. He does his job. Again, not going to do anything, incredible. He's not going to have a Justin Simmons type year, I can assure you, but he's a solid safety. He's a good player, and these are the moves that you want to make when you're rebuilding. You can't break the bank for free agents, and this is exactly why we were told, Bill, heading into free agency, like, Broncos are not going to do much, and that's okay. And I want to transition to this a little bit, and I'll get your opinion on this and see what you think. A lot of people are really worried that the Broncos haven't brought in an additional quarterback. All jokes aside, as much as I'd love to be, I'd give Stidham a run for his money. Ha ha, that's hilarious. Anyway, how down bad must Bronco fans be in order to be upset by not signing guys by the names of Sam Darnold, Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew? I love Gardner Minshew. He's my spirit animal. I don't really want him as a quarterback. I lobbied for him very hard on Twitter because I thought he would give us a really good chance to tank, to secure a top 3 pick, to potentially take Shedeur Sanders as a quarterback in next year's
draft. I love the Broncos tank.
I'm sorry, like, it would be entertaining, okay? Yeah. And here's the thing, like, I'm not campaigning for that. That's just the direction that they're headed. I have nothing to do with that. So I'm like, well, I'm on the ship, and so I'm going to go down with it. That's kind of where we're at, right? But the fact that, like, fans, like, if you're one of these people, look at me. If you're one of these people that got upset that the Broncos did not sign Sam Darnold or did not trade for Mac Jones or didn't sign Jacoby Brissett or didn't sign Jimmy Garoppolo or insert mediocre quarterback name here, have a drink.
Mario Vetanze.
How about have a little bit of this, because your brain is not functioning properly. You're down bad. I get it. We're all there right now. We are in this together. I know. We're saving it for this season because it's going to be a long
You may need it.
But I'm telling you, like, everyone's going to need it. This is how we get through it together. If you're one of these people that is upset that the Broncos haven't signed one of these quarterbacks, you need a little bit of this right now. Okay? Little bit of alcohol.
When you come, I should say when if you're available to come on my show during the bye week, and it's only that much left, I'll know we had a bad season.
It's going to be gone. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be gone. But here's the thing. I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't be upset that the Broncos did not sign one of those guys or why they didn't trade for Mac Jones, blah, blah, blah. Because at the end of the day, they're the exact same as Jarrett Stidham. Yep. Now, maybe there's a difference of 1 or 2 wins, maybe. Yep. Bottom line is, what Sean Payton did not like about Russ is exactly what he loves about Jarrett Stidham. Mm-hmm. Russ went off the books. He was really good improvising. He was really good out of the pocket. He was decent off schedule. That is not what Sean Payton wants. The reason that he likes Jarrett Stidham, and the reason that there really wasn't that big of a drop-off from Russell Wilson to Jarrett Stidham, if you really look at, like, their production and you cut the film and see the throws that they made, Jarrett Stidham did everything that Sean Payton asked. Is it going to be flashy? Is it going to be sexy? Nope. He is a game manager. So he is going to manage the game and play it exactly the way that Sean Payton wants to play until the Broncos get their quarterback of the future. Because it's not Jarrett Stidham. But fans are bitching and moaning about not getting a bridge quarterback. You have a bridge quarterback. You have Jarrett Stidham. And they will address quarterback at some point. Yeah, I think they got him for this year. He's a free agent next year. At some point, they'll draft a quarterback. I doubt it's going to be one of the big four. Maybe it's Bo Nix. Maybe it's Spencer Rattler. Maybe it's Michael Pratt. Maybe it's Joe Milton. I hope not, but I don't know. They will draft a quarterback at some point, and he's either going to pan out or he's not. And I have news for you, Bronco fans. Unless something drastically changes, it's going to be a long year. It's going to be a rough year. But you know what? This is what rebuilding is all about, and it sucks, and it's not fun. And the difference between this year and all the previous years is now we know it's going to be bad. In past years, at least we had a little bit of hope, okay? Not so much this year. So you got to be patient. You have to trust the process and understand that when you're building from the ground up, this is what it looks like. And you have to hope that eventually you hit on your number one quarterback. And all the guys that they missed out on in free agency, they weren't going to be that guy. Jameis Winston's not going to come in here and win you 10 games and take you to a wild card berth. It's not going to happen. Doesn't matter who it is. Matt Jones, not even winning 9 games. Instead, when you get a quarterback like that, Bill, actually, if I could take this a step further, and then I want to hear what you think about all this, about them missing out on these quarterbacks. Let's say you get a guy that's a little bit better than Stidham. Let's say you get a Jacoby Brissett. Let's say you get a Gardner Minshew, who I know was a game away from the playoffs, but it was because of Shane Steichen. But I digress. Let's say you get one of these guys that's a little bit better than Jarrett Stidham. Let's say it's the difference between 5 wins and 7 wins. Hell, I'll give you 5 wins and 8 wins. Does 8 wins make you feel that much better? Does 7 wins make you feel that much better? No. So why are we worried about having another bridge quarterback? If none of these quarterbacks can be the future of the franchise, you shouldn't be upset that the Broncos didn't sign them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I totally agree. Totally agree. And I've been saying on my show for weeks, I don't want a bridge quarterback. Absolutely not. We have Stidham. Why bring in somebody else when we're already paying Russell Wilson $35 or $34 million? And he's laughing all the way to the bank in Pittsburgh going, I got over on the, he's dancing. Look, have you seen his post that he's put on Twitter and stuff? He's all Steven, whatever. I'm not going down that road. Doggone, I hit the microphone. I'm so wound up. You got me wound up, Mario. Doggone it.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. Let's see it.
Like that. Like that's anything normal, then I'm not. But yeah, I totally agree with you. No, we don't need a bridge quarterback, or do I dare say bridge water quarterback? But you know what I'm saying. So you're right. So I wonder. Oh God, I lost my train. I had a good thought. All right, let me talk about
why we don't need a bridge quarterback.
Yeah. Now it was something before that, but let me go on this. I'm going to ask you this, okay?
Yeah.
At the end of the show, I want to get into the schedule because it's very not ironic. Well, I guess that's the word. Very ironic that certain things are going to happen with the schedule and certain players not here. Okay. That being said, I don't want to give it away, but we'll get into it. I want to talk about Josie Jewell. First off, let me ask you this. Are you upset that Josie Jewell was released by the Broncos, or not released, but gone from the Broncos?
I mean, yes and no. I've always really liked Josie. He was an unquestioned leader of this team. I thought he's always been a really solid linebacker. Not the greatest athlete, but when he lacked in athleticism, he more than made up for in intelligence. He really personified what it was like to be a Bronco. He was a very solid player. I mean, honestly, you'd say the same thing about Lloyd Cushenberry. I mean, really like both of those guys. And so, I'm bummed that they're gone because they're good players and they're good people and they were drafted by the Broncos, and you always hope that those kind of guys work out. And the Broncos got a lot of decent production out of Josie Jewell. But at the same time, it's like, I get the direction that they're going in. It's like what we've talked about. This is a teardown. They want to rip it down to the studs and rebuild everything. And so in terms of going in that direction, it's tough, but I agree with it, and I'm glad that Josie got another deal. Hopefully Carolina's a little bit better this year. They've certainly added a lot of pieces. Lloyd in Tennessee, again, they got the young quarterback in Levis. Hopefully that's a better situation for Lloyd. And so, I wish these guys all the best. And while, personally I'm sad because I like them as players, I'm okay with it. I see the direction that they're going, and it's not a devastating thing to watch the Broncos allow them to walk.
Right. His replacement apparently has been signed by the Denver Broncos. His replacement is Cody Barton. He played 13 games last season with the Washington Commanders. I always say that.
Well, careful, Bill. They're going to cancel you. You say that word.
I've been doing it for quite a few weeks. Anyways, he played 13 games last season with the Washington Commanders and 121 tackles. Do you feel he's a step up, equal, or below Jewell?
I think it remains to be seen. I think the best thing about Josie Jewell is the dynamic that he had with Alex Singleton. So here's the thing with Jewell and Singleton. As individuals, they're solid, right? They are average to above average inside linebackers. You put those guys together, they were like the Bash brothers, right? They fed off of each other. They were great with spacing. One knew where the other was going to be at all times, and so they really worked well together. So a big part of that dynamic of the inside linebackers are how they mesh, how they work together. I really like Barton. Like I saw this advanced metric stat that he was one of the better coverage inside linebackers in the entire NFL. And I think you pair that with a guy like Singleton, who we know is a tackling machine. He kind of just flies around the field, but is a little bit of a liability in coverage. So in that sense, I think that it is an improvement from Jewell simply because Jewell and Singleton kind of did more or less the same thing. Like both were great tacklers, both were great instinctive guys. Neither were great in coverage. Barton, I would say, is markedly better than both of them in coverage. But then the dark horse here is the Broncos have Jonas Griffith coming back. How much of a role is he going to play? Because honestly, if he's able to make a full recovery from his injury, I think this team had really high hopes from going into the year last year, Bill. And if he has been able to make that full recovery from, I think it was his ACL or Achilles or something like that, he very well could be the starting inside linebacker for this team because where, they had different guys good at kind of different things. Jonas Griffith is kind of good at everything. He's plus in coverage, great off-ball linebacker, can make the tackles, can read the runs, very instinctual player. So that's kind of going to be a really dynamic room. Like you've got good pieces. Now you just have to hope that they all mesh and work well together.
Right. Oops, hit the microphone again. I'm getting excited. Glenn put up a great question. Mario, you want to go ahead and read it?
Yeah. Partnership with many players is so much more than just as a fan. How hard is free agency personally when some of these Broncos change teams? Yeah, it's crazy, Glenn. Like I've been doing this like professionally for 10 years, but obviously, like I said, if you know anything about me, know anything about my dad, he was working with Bronco players dating back to the 70s. I mean, Otis Armstrong, Rick Upchurch, those were his first two Bronco patients. So that's how far back he went with Bronco players. And so
let me interject a question real quick.
Yeah.
How old were you even born when he was working with them? Probably not.
No. I was born in 88.
So when did you know about that? When did he tell you about that?
Well, I just grew up with the stories, like that's the thing. I consider myself to be friends with a lot of the Bronco players because I love going into my dad's office. I was a big Bronco fan, and I got to talk to guys like Steve Atwater and Bill Romanowski and Rod Smith and Ed McCaffrey and like all these kind of guys, and it led to my dad being the official chiropractor in 1998 for the Denver Broncos. He actually has a Super Bowl ring. Yep. It's got Vetanze on it and everything, like super legit. So like part of that, Glenn, like just kind of being in that space, kind of seeing how my dad handled it. It's really difficult because with a lot of these guys, I want to develop close personal friendships and relationships with them because it's like as a body worker, they need to know that they can trust me and they need to know that I have their best interests at hand. And so when you have that dynamic, it's like, I tend to bond with a lot of these guys on like a friendship level. But I will say this, like in my decade of doing this and having the honor and the privilege of working on Denver Bronco players, no roster move has been more difficult for me than Justin Simmons. I was really close with Chris Harris when he was here, and when he left, that was really tough. I was really close with Shelby Harris when he left. That was tough. There's been a handful of other guys that it's like you kind of see coming, and so it kind of softens the blow. And I think that's what made it worse about Justin is I kind of fooled myself into believing that he was going to be a lifelong Bronco, right? And I think the fact that it took me by surprise made it more difficult. But yeah, it's tough, Glenn, and especially if I'm doing a podcast or I'm tweeting about guys, it's very hard for me to be objective because I'm biased, and I will readily admit it. It's like I'm convinced that all the guys that I have the pleasure of working on, I'm convinced that they're the best players on the team, which maybe isn't always the case. So it's difficult as a fan, and it's even more difficult as like knowing them from a personal level. And all I can do to kind of make it better is just let them know, like, I'm rooting for them as an individual, as a player. And at the end of the day, my job is to keep them healthy and to help them get paid. So if it's these guys that are leaving in free agency and they're signing contracts, or they're going somewhere else and they're flourishing, then I consider like that I've done my job if they are continuing to thrive after their time in Denver. That's my solace.
Well said. Well said. I don't want to go down that road again. I know that the personal feelings you have and everything, Mario. I appreciate that. You're an amazing guy, man. And
thank you. I appreciate that.
You treat these guys like family. I know you do. I don't know you personally. I haven't met you personally. I'm looking forward to that.
Someday, Bill.
We will. We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. But just talking to you stuff, I know that there's a whole lot of personal stuff there. So not going to get into that. I do want to touch on. Let me bring up the schedule here real quick. Do want to touch on this particular thing because I want your opinion on this. Okay, hold on. I know I got it. Okay. All right. I had a side note to tonight's topic, which was Broncos add some talent in free agency. However, Broncos lost some players to other teams who they will see again in Denver. Russell Wilson and Jerry Jeudy are coming back to Denver. No, not on the team, but on opposing teams. So let me ask you this, Mario. Russell Wilson with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Jerry Jeudy with the Cleveland Browns, do you personally think, before I get into some of the schedule, which I want to do a preview of the upcoming season, do you think those two will have a chip on their shoulder to prove something to Denver when they come back? Because both of those games are in Denver.
So I'll start with Jerry Jeudy, and I'll say, I would say he has a chip on his shoulder. I think everybody could see that Jerry kind of had like that perpetual chip on his shoulder. And I know there were some down moments for Jerry, and there were certainly plays that he could have and should have made, and there were certainly times. What's up, Rudy? There were certainly times that he could have handled himself better. But I'm a firm believer in the fact that the Broncos never used Jerry Jeudy correctly. They just weren't putting him in good positions. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know X's and O's well enough to tell you whether or not they were scheming specifically for him, but I can tell you for a fact, straight from the horse's mouth, as well as other – Carter, no, you're way cooler than me, man, but I appreciate the sentiment. I heard from the horse's mouth and people directly, like, very close to the situation, like actual players.
Man, you're
Ian, I love you as well, dude. My man. Thank you. Thank you, Ian.
The love. All right.
A lot of the players that had told me, like, when Pat Shurmur was the offensive coordinator, did Jerry Jeudy absolutely no favors. There were often times that he wouldn't even have Jerry Jeudy run routes past 10 yards. And obviously it didn't get any better with Nathaniel Hackett. It got a little bit better with Sean Payton last year, but not really, because Jerry Jeudy couldn't really etch out that wide receiver one role, and he never seemed to get on the same page with –
But hold on a second. Do you think it's because Jerry Jeudy runs precise routes and Russell Wilson's running around with it like a chicken with his head cut off, and he can't see him because he's running precise routes? Now he's going to Cleveland with another quarterback, Deshaun Watson, who does the same thing as Russell Wilson. So how's he going to fit in?
I think you absolutely nailed that. And that's exactly what I was going to say. It's like Russ is an off-schedule guy, and Jerry is a very, very on-schedule route runner. So I think Jerry is going to flourish in Cleveland, and I think more importantly is because of a guy like Stefanski. Now, the Deshaun Watson thing is weird. It's like you think that he's a good quarterback, but you're not really sure. And then last year he had, his best game, and it seemed like he figured it out against Baltimore, and then he gets hurt. And then Joe Flacco comes in, leads the team to the playoffs, looks better than he's ever looked before because he's an on-schedule thrower. So are we going to see more of that? Is Kevin Stefanski going to implement more of that? Because if we do, I think Jerry Jeudy will succeed. And if it's more backyard football like we've seen Deshaun Watson kind of have a propensity for in the past, then I think he's going to struggle again. But getting back to your original question, I do think Jerry Jeudy will have a chip on his shoulder. I think that they're also going to try and get him away from Pat Surtain if they can, because at this point we have no idea who our number 2 cornerback is going to be. So I would think that the Browns are going to try and script him to get open, and he's not going to get open against Pat Surtain. We saw it in practice. We saw it in training camp. Every once in a while, Jerry Jeudy would get the best of him, but it was really few and far between. If I'm Jerry, I just don't like those odds. Now, on the other hand, Bill, with Russell Wilson, I would really, I'm tempted to say, well, of course Russell Wilson is going to have a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Everybody in Denver hates him now. Everybody in Denver thinks that he failed them. Russ is Mr. Comeback Kid. Russ is Mr. Never Keep Me Down. And here's the thing, Bill. What's so funny about that is I thought this fool had a chip on his shoulder when we went back to Seattle, and we ended up getting beat by them. So I don't want to hear all of this crap. I thought so for sure, Bill. In Russell Wilson's first game as a Seattle Seahawks, they cast him aside, Bill. They traded him. They said, you ain't got it anymore. You're done. Good evening, Muhammad. Thank you so much for watching, man. Appreciate you. They said, you ain't got it, Russ. Seattle said, we are better off with Geno Smith and Drew Lock than you. And we as Bronco fans, we as new Russell Wilson fans, we thought there ain't no way the Broncos are losing this game. We're going to go into Seattle and we are going to boat race them. What happened, Bill? The chip on Russell Wilson's shoulder wasn't big enough, okay? And so I have a really hard time believing that he's going to have any sort of chip on his shoulder, and this is maybe where it's going to favor the Broncos. Russell was never too high. He was never too low. He was always right here, Mr. Positive. Nothing's going wrong. Everything is great. Don't worry about it. We had a great week of practice. So I think this is where it's going to benefit the Broncos when Russell Wilson does return, is he never gets too high. His emotions never take over, even in moments that you want them to. Even in moments where you're like, Russ, show some emotion. For once in your life, please, just get fired up. Like we saw Mike Purcell yelling at him on the sideline a couple seasons ago. It's because he wanted to elicit that emotion and that reaction. And Russ isn't capable of it. Yep. So to answer your question, Jerry Jeudy absolutely will have a chip on his shoulder. He'll really want to get this dub. Russell Wilson, he's going to say something like, I enjoyed my time in Denver. It was good. It was a shame that it didn't work out. There were a lot of guys there. And then he will proceed to list a dozen players that he played with, and then not say anything about them. He'll literally just list them. And then maybe make a comment about Sean Payton, because he's always going to take the high risk. Coach Payton, he's a great coach, but I'm a Pittsburgh Steeler now, and it doesn't really matter who's on the other side over there. We just want to get this win, and that's what he's going to say, and it's going to piss off Bronco fans, and it's going to piss off Steeler fans, because Bronco fans are going to be like, see, he's not changed, and Steeler fans are like, get excited, what? You're going up against a team that cash you signed after 2 years, and they would rather pay you $50 million to not play on their team, and you can't get up for that? That's what's going to happen.
Oh, Mario, I'm telling you, man, I knew having you on this show was going to be absolutely over the top good. But I'll tell you what, you've definitely exceeded this. It's been such a great show. All right, Glenn has a question. He's been asking this for the last several minutes, so I'm going to put up.
All right, Glenn,
go ahead. What's the latest?
Mario, what's the latest on the new uniforms? All right, Glenn, I got something special for you. Okay, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a spoiler. Okay, I'm gonna give you all a sneak peek.
It's legit. Ooh.
Oh, wait. That's not the new uniforms. That's a pillow that Glenn got for me of me doing this. Sorry to mislead you. Glenn,
No,
I've told you
good.
everything that I know.
That's cool,
I've told you everything
man.
I know about the uniforms. It's all out there. Oh, you think it's cool, Bill? Oh, can you see what I'm holding
No, I
here?
didn't see that part. You didn't show.
What does that say, Bill? These are the kind of gifts that these people give me. They send them to my office.
Mario, look at the video. At the screen. That's all I saw was at your waist. I didn't see anything below that. So I apologize. I am sorry. I hope you will come. I hope you will come back on my show again sometime.
Stop it, okay? This is what an absolute maniac Glenn is, okay? This thing that I'm holding, and then Glenn took this picture. Like, this is a picture of me and Glenn, and he sent this picture. He caught me out of a picture I took with Glenn, okay? Very unflattering picture, by the way. Like, look, listen, I'm not this thick through the waist. This pillow is like plushing out, okay? So it makes me look way more husky in the midsection than I really am. So I just want to point that out, because as I'm looking at him, like, this is not flat. Let me see if this side's better. No, it's a little better. Now it's bad angle. I don't really look like this. This is what, first of all, anyway, this thing shows up to my office, and if you can't read it, it says the Penis Pump 3000, and it has a picture of a penis pump. Real big, like, look how big this thing is, okay? This package, for lack of a better term, no pun intended, it was like this big. It was a big old cardboard carton, okay?
Oh my God!
Sent to my place.
This whole show took a negative turn.
The mailman gave this to my secretary. This package that said the Penis Pump 3000. And the crappiest part, Bill, the worst part of this whole thing.
Oh my gosh!
Right? At first, I didn't know who sent it, but I had a feeling that it was Glenn, because who the hell else would, right? Okay.
You probably shouldn't have said the word feeling, but okay, whatever.
You're right. Because nobody wants to be feeling Glenn, okay? The only person feeling Glenn is like, I know Glenn has another one of these pillows that he sleeps with. This is the only feeling that Glenn gets anymore, okay? So here's the thing. Here's the worst part, Bill, is the fact that I opened this thing thinking, well, this is a real thing. Thank you, Mohammed. I'm a little, we call it off the rails, would might be more than off the chain. I appreciate that. This is the worst part, Bill. I go to open it. It's empty. It's just a little paper that says, you've been pranked. So Glenn embarrasses me at my place of work, doesn't even give me a penis pump. Yeah, Biggie, that's exactly what I'm saying. I got all excited. I was like, you know what? I know. Biggie said, and his wife got upset because it actually wasn't a penis pump. Biggie, listen, man. I'm upset too. Okay. Look at my face.
Gosh.
That's what I'm saying was the worst part about it. I thought, like, Glenn, all right, you embarrassed me at work. That's okay. But at least I get a penis pump out of the deal. Don't even get that. So you know what, Glenn? I'm still waiting on the actual Penis Pump 3000, okay? And if you need my sizing, it's XL. Appreciate you, big dog.
Hello. Are we still on?
I knew I had to incorporate this somehow into the show. So I think that was a good.
Oh my God.
I think that was a good segue.
Mario, I'm telling you, I love every time you're on my show. My gosh, it's one of the best shows. I go back and watch our shows many times that I've had.
I always have so much fun, Bill. They're such a blast. Man. I appreciate you allowing me to just be unhinged.
Absolutely. Come on, man. That's why I want people on the show is to just, be themselves. It's kind of like, two guys. Hey, hey, I had a buddy of mine that you want to know something funny? Okay, I'm going to say something to you guys. I probably shouldn't say this because my wife always says, don't say things that can embarrass you, but I don't care. Okay. I'm going to take my hat off real quick. I have a very small, narrow head. Okay. It's not a big head.
Yeah.
It's small, narrow head. Okay. So I don't have a lot. I can't wear a lot of big size, hats. I can't do it. Right. So a buddy of mine bought me a hat, Mario, like that was good. A buddy of mine bought me a hat like that. I put it on my head. It swallowed half my face. It was too big.
Right, all the way down right here.
Yeah, I couldn't wear it. I couldn't wear it, man. It was like doing this. Hang on. Oh shit. Hang on. I can reach it. Hang on. It was like.
What is happening?
It's like two college students having fun in the freaking dorm. It was like me putting one of these on and going like this. I just can't see a thing. Don't know. It don't work.
Listen, here's the best part about this head right here. Like, it's signed by. Let me see who this is signed by. Bill Romanowski, Jason Elam.
Wait a minute. Wait, Glenn. Where did that come from? Mario talks about penis.
Listen, Glenn.
I have a small, narrow.
Listen, Bill. Glenn, let me talk to you. The Glenn Hauser portion of this show is over. Okay? You're done. You're cut. No more Glenn Hauser for the rest of the night. And honestly, probably no more Glenn Hauser for me for the rest of the month. Okay? Let's get back on track here. And what I'm saying, Bill, the best part about all of this, not that it's signed by the aforementioned players, okay? The best part is when we end up with Jarrett Stidham as our starting quarterback in week 1.
Good. We're back. We're focused.
We can wear it just like this. And see, the nice part about this is there's a little slit under here that cradles my nose, and my eyes are completely covered. So the nice thing is I don't actually have to see what's happening. And then we have the new saying where we used to have Broncos Country, let's ride. Right. It is now transitioned to Broncos Country, let's hide.
Let's hide. That's a good one. I like that one. Okay. So going back real quick, to the Russell Wilson, Jerry Jeudy coming to Denver. We don't know. Here's the schedule, guys. I'll put up there if you guys want to see it real quick.
Yeah, those are the opponents.
We don't have the times yet. So we do know that Pittsburgh and Cleveland are coming to Denver. So my question, we already talked about revenge, whatever. So real quickly, I know that this is way premature before the season, but I'm going to ask you anyways, Mario. Do the Broncos beat the Steelers in Denver? No matter, and okay, let me back that up a little. Is the Broncos Steelers game prime time? And if so, is it the first prime time of the new year?
I would like for it to be. I think the only problem is, when Russ going back to Seattle was the prime time game. Ian said, let's cry. Yeah, let's hide, let's cry. We're going to be doing all those things, okay? But here's the thing, Russ had spent a very long and illustrious career in Seattle. So it was a really big deal that he was no longer Seattle Seahawk because I'm sure he was one of those guys that they considered would be a lifelong Seahawk, and it wasn't meant to be. Right. He was only here for 2 years. The Broncos were not good while he was here. He was not really good while he was here. And I know he had good stats last year, but let's not act like he was a really good quarterback, okay? It's just not the story that it needs to be. Big E said, we do not want to play the Steelers week 1. Week 2 will be right, but Mike Tomlin does not lose on week 1. That's right. That's a really good point. And honestly, I think it should be prime time because here's the thing, you want to get most teams on prime time. I don't see a lot of games where the schedule makers will want to have the Broncos on prime time, so you have to have storylines. So the Steelers game strikes me as a prime time game. Maybe it's just a Thursday night game. I'm not sure. But in terms of opening weekend, it's probably not going to be on the Thursday night. That's typically the reigning Super Bowl champs, which is the Chiefs.
Oh, you almost threw up.
Anyway,
I saw that.
It threw up in my mouth. It was absolutely disgusting. But as we all know, it was a fixed game, so it's not like it actually counts. Anyway, it's just I don't think the Broncos. There's just not that much intrigue to the game. So that strikes me as a third of the way through the season type of prime time game. I think they'll. I mean, if you're a schedule maker, you saw how Russ performed when he went to a new team right off the bat, and the Broncos had all those primetime games, and it was one of the worst football we've ever seen. I'm wondering if they're going to see that and be like, you know what? Russ's first year in Denver, we gave him like 12 primetime games, and I think they scored a total of like 20 points in those games. So how about we don't put Russell Wilson on primetime until he can get his legs under him, and then maybe it won't be such a boring game. And so that strikes me as like a middle of the season type of like primetime matchup. But I do hope that it is primetime because it's one of the few storylines that we'll get as like Bronco fans next year.
Okay.
And they'll find a way to beat the Chiefs. And it's going to be frustrating, too, because by and large, like at the end of next season, you know, the Broncos will probably be in play for like a top 5 pick. But one of the wins that they will have is going to be against the Chiefs, and we're all going to be really excited when it happens. And then we're going to look back at it and be like, really? Beat the Chiefs? Like the one time that we actually maybe don't really want to beat them, and we beat them. That's my other bold prediction for next year is we inexplicably beat the Chiefs. Again.
Yep, that would be awesome. Okay, we all know, and I'm going to wrap this up, Mario. I know you had a busy day today. I really do appreciate you for being on the show. We're over an hour and 10 minutes. Your time is very valuable. I really do appreciate your time, your friendship. Thank you so much for being on. Real quick, I know that we haven't even begun to even get into the draft. Who's going to be on the team, what the schedule is going to be like. I know the teams that we're going to play, but I just want to pick your brain really quick, early, very, very early, as to who you think the toughest teams the Broncos will face this year. I'm going to start with the away games first. Now get into the home games, and we don't have to pick what the record's going to be, but just who do you think the toughest is going to be based on who went to different teams, okay? All right, we know we got the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Raiders. The Chargers have Harbaugh. What do you think about Harbaugh and the Chargers?
I mean, I like Harbaugh as a coach. I really wish the Broncos had been able to secure him either this year or last year, whenever they really pursued him. That would have been fantastic, but it wasn't meant to be. I guess it would have been last year, according to the reports. And maybe Russell Wilson is still here, and I think a big reason they wanted Harbaugh was because he's one of the coaches that could actually like make Russell Wilson work, and he's kind of a weird dude, and Russ is a weird dude, and it would work. But I think he's a phenomenal coach. But the Chargers they're in a tough spot, just like the Broncos. Let go of Mike Williams, traded Keenan Allen. I know they were able to restructure Bosa and Khalil Mack, which is nice, but then, Eckler's gone. That offense, man, I feel bad for Justin Herbert. He's a top 5, top 10 talent at quarterback in this league. And, aside from when Shane Steichen was there as his quarterback coach, I think he was his quarterback coach or consultant or whatever it was, outside of that, he's had a hard time. There's been a lot of turnovers on offensive coordinators. And so this year, the Chargers don't necessarily scare me. I think their defense will be solid. Having Justin Herbert, I think, is always a plus, but he's got no receivers, man. Like, his number one receiver right now is Joshua Palmer. And I don't want to hear that it's Quentin Johnston because that dude is not it, okay? Right. So as of now, pre-draft, the Chargers don't scare me. The Raiders, I would like to say they don't scare me, but the Broncos can't seem to beat them, even though they're not that good. And I don't think we know a lot about Antonio Pierce. Yeah. I mean, they got Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, which I wish those dudes played for any other team because I love both of those guys. Like, Aiden O'Connell's hilarious. Gardner Minshew, like I said earlier, is my spirit animal, and it is a real shame that both of them played for the Raiders, but, like, that's got to be the most fun quarterback room of all time. And even though that neither of them are like true bona fide starters, they'll still find a way to beat the Broncos because it's inexplicable at this point. I mean, honestly, the last several years, the Broncos have had a better team than the Raiders, and we have not beaten them since they've been in Las Vegas. It makes no sense. Yeah, I can't begin to try and understand it.
I agree.
Mohammed, you know what, man? I hope that you're right. And here's why I'm saying it, Mohammed. I'm very superstitious, okay? Because every single year, I get asked who we think the Broncos are going to beat. And every year, I say the same thing. Well, we got to beat the Raiders, right? We haven't beaten the Raiders in X amount of years. We obviously are going to beat the Raiders, and we keep freaking losing. So I'm trying to turn the tides, okay? I'm trying to put it out there in the world and jinx us into a win over the Raiders by saying that I don't think that we're going to beat the Raiders. I'm falling on a grenade for all of Broncos country here, okay? And I'll gladly do it again for my people.
Okay. We also play, and I'm going to start with the lead on the road. This is the teams that I think we should be. We play the Jets again with Nathaniel Hackett as our offense court. Do we beat him this time?
Well,
this is in New York. This is New York. This is a road game.
Here's the thing: like, assuming that Aaron Rodgers is playing quarterback for the Jets and he's not vice president of the United States, yeah, I don't know. Like, again, I really thought.
No, I said timeout because No. I don't mean political. I don't mean politically wise. I'm just saying timeout because I mean that. Can you imagine that? Here you are, a quarterback trying to come back and play for a team, and some guy's trying to pull you off into political. It's crazy.
Listen, I don't want to go down that train. Okay, I don't want to get bogged down in political talk or anything like that. And I don't know how much of a family-friendly show this is. I'm just gonna say Aaron Rodgers is a dipshit, and we're just gonna move on. Okay.
You can say what you want, Mario. You can say what you want.
You're a freaking idiot. Biggest piece of shit. Anyway. No, I mean, I'd like to think that we could beat the Jets. I think the question mark is how good Aaron Rodgers will be, in all honesty. Like, coming off that injury, being the age that he is. It's in New York. That's a tough place to go and play. So, yeah, I mean, that's gonna be interesting. I will say this, Bill. I know two of their games, they're on the road against Baltimore and on the road against Cincinnati, right?
Yep.
Those are probably their toughest games. And of course, at Kansas City, always a tough time to play. And it always seems like we have to play at Kansas City in a primetime game, right? And it never seems to go well for us. So that's always a tough game. Like, any game in Kansas City is going to be difficult. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow is going to come back. I know they're losing some guys, but I still really like Joe Burrow. Glenn, I told you you'd cut from the show, but I'm going to go ahead and read it anyway.
Hang on, Glenn. Hang on, Mario, real quick. Glenn,
go ahead.
Is this something that's in the works? Are you talking about what are you talking about here? Vikings are acquiring picks to get Herbert.
So he is Glenn. So I think Glenn heard us talking about Aaron Rodgers, who is a known stupid conspiracy theorist. And so Glenn has decided to come up with a silly little conspiracy theory of his own.
That doesn't make
so
sense.
So what Glenn is thinking, and this would actually be a lot of fun if they happened. I just don't see the Chargers doing it, but with Harbaugh, you never know. So what Glenn was saying, because the Vikings now have 2 first-round picks, so Glenn is saying that as opposed to the Vikings trading up for a quarterback, that they're using those first-round picks to trade for Justin Herbert so that the Chargers can draft J.J. McCarthy so that he can be reunited with Harbaugh.
I was like, what? Where did that come from? I'm like, holy crap. See?
Well, it doesn't matter because I told Glenn that he was grounded, okay? I told you you're done, Glenn. You're done until I get my real penis pump, Glenn, and it better be in the mail. Extra large. Hey. Thank you.
But Mario, all you have to do is look at Glenn, square in the eye, in the camera, and say, Glenn, I have a 2.5-year-old son. I already have the penis pump. Am I right?
Right. Well, the funniest thing about all of this, Bill, is that Glenn looks like a penis.
Oh, okay. We are done. Thanks for coming.
Next time he comes into my office, I'm gonna get a Sharpie and I'm gonna draw like a little line right there, and I'm gonna make him stand like this, and everybody's gonna see it.
I knew. I told everybody that I sent out the link to watch the show live at 7 Pacific time.
I'm sorry, Bill.
No. It's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. I told everybody, you got to watch the show. Mario Vetanze is off the hook, off the rails. The guy is crazy good. You got to watch him. You never know what direction we're going to go. It's going to be a fun show. And I had everybody come.
Bill. It's Glenn's fault, okay? He keeps pushing my buttons, and he forced me to call him a penis, okay? I didn't want to do that. I'm trying to turn over a new leaf and be a better person. And Muhammad just said sausage fest.
Oh my gosh.
But being the stalwart professionals that we are, we're going to push on. Anyway, like I was saying, the three most difficult games that the Broncos are going to have at Ravens, at Bengals, at the Chiefs. That's what I got.
Okay, now let's go to the home games. Oh my gosh. I don't even know. Okay, we got to face Russell Wilson, Pittsburgh at home. We got to face Jerry Jeudy on Cleveland at home. We got the Raiders, Chiefs, Chargers, obviously. But how about this one? Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons come to Denver. Does Kirk Cousins, is he better on the Vikings or is he better on the Falcons?
First and foremost, let me just say, whoever is Kirk Cousins' agent needs to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Because the money that this man keeps getting, despite winning one playoff game in his entire career, like, I don't know who his agent is. I'm sure I could Google it. Like, salute to you, sir. Like, my God, good job. And not only that, but Biggie said somebody's going to YouTube how to work a penis pump, and this podcast is going to pop up. Hey, you know what? There's SEO coding, and then there's that. So whatever gets the podcast in front of the people.
You know, Mundungus Creevy is getting a boatload of mileage out of this thing. He is totally getting a boatload of mileage out of it.
He's getting a lot of really good clips. So here's the thing, like, I really like Kirk Cousins. I've always liked Kirk. I always thought that he was a much better quarterback than people give him credit for. I think Minnesota, you saw Minnesota really struggle without him. I think they're going to have a hard time this year, even if they do land one of the top quarterbacks in the draft.
I did not know that.
Bill, I don't trust him. No, Glenn, he said listen, Bill, I don't trust anything Glenn says, okay? I don't want to listen to anything that Glenn says. I don't trust him. As far as I can throw him, I don't even want to hear it, okay? We're just going to stick and move. Okay, so, with Kirk Cousins, here's the thing. That Atlanta offense is going to be unreal. Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, got the piece that they just added, the free agencies, like, got me all in a tizzy, but, like, they have got some absolute studs as weapons, and their defense is solid too. So really, this might be the best collection of offensive talent from top to bottom from a skill position standpoint that Kirk Cousins has had in his entire career. So I think that's going to be a really fun game, assuming that Kirk is back to 100%. I think for me, that's the big question mark, and that's why $100 million guaranteed with Kirk at his age coming off of that injury is shit crazy to me. But freaking kudos to his agent again for getting that contract. It's like, if you can keep getting people to agree to pay that, good for you. I have nothing but love for you. You go out and make your bread. But honestly, like, as a fan of football, I would love to see, and as the proud owner of Kyle Pitts in my fantasy dynasty league, I would love for him to finally do something. I think Kirk Cousins could be that guy. I'm really excited to see that offense. I think this is going to be a really, really fun offense. Arthur Smith is gone. Desmond Ridder is gone. And I think those young weapons will finally flourish down in Atlanta.
Okay. Have you ever worked on anybody that had that type of injury that Kirk Cousins has?
What was his exact injury? Was it the Achilles? He ruptured his Achilles. I had actually had worked on Demaryius Thomas, and it wasn't, I wasn't a professional yet doing what I was more. My dad had been working on him, and I kind of talked him through it, and then worked on him subsequently after. But I think it was in between his rookie and second year in the offseason, Demaryius Thomas had ruptured his Achilles.
What?
Obviously had to have surgery. And
let me interject real quick because I know you're going to talk about it. What is the specifics of what you have to do to get an Achilles back to what it needs to be?
I mean, honestly, you have to have the surgery. It's got to get reattached or it's got to get rehabilitated, whatever it takes. I mean, You know what? There's not a lot that I could do. Like during the healing process, it's like I can do some soft tissue work. I have a technique called grafting where we're basically scraping the skin to break up the scar tissue. We do some mobility work for the ankle and for the foot, but really, there's not a lot that you can do. You physical therapy, you train, you rehab. You got to get the strength back in that Achilles. You have to make that brain to body connection. And so, there's only so much I could do for like a really, really severe injury like that. All you can do is get surgery and just wait. It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of really arduous recovery.
In your opinion, is Kirk Cousins going to perform to what his contract is, or do you not know that?
No. I mean, here's the thing. I think in order to justify $100 million guaranteed, you have to win a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. That's what they're paying him for. Atlanta went all in, and they have the money, so it's like, this is our best option. They really weren't in a place to draft an elite quarterback, and I think anybody who watched Desmond Ridder for as long as 2 minutes knew that he's a career backup in the NFL. I'm pretty sure he just got traded to Arizona to go back up Kyler Murray. He's fine, but I think the people in charge and the people running the show in Atlanta, they see that they have something special with all of these offensive weapons. They see that their defense is kind of bordering on above average to very good to great. Like, that's a very underrated, very good aggressive defense. And they were put in a lot of bad positions last year because of the turnovers that Desmond Ridder committed. So as of now, as I see it now, based on his history, based on the fact that Kirk Cousins has one playoff win in his entire illustrious career, and I'm not saying it's all his fault, okay? It is a team sport.
Graham?
Yeah, Graham said most overpaid player of the offseason. 100% agree, Graham. 100% agree. And the only way that he can prove us wrong is to win a Super Bowl. Just one. Yep. Just one. But anything short of that, maybe going to a Super Bowl, but Atlanta's done that before a couple of times and they keep falling short. Broncos know about that specifically, okay? If you do not win a Super Bowl, investing that much money into a guy like Kirk Cousins at his age, coming off of that injury, it's too much money. The only way to justify it is winning a championship, or at the very least, winning the NFC. It's the only way, in my eyes. But I'm with Graham. I think he was 100% overpaid, which is why I keep giving so much credit to his agent. Like, I want to figure out who his agent is. And Glenn, shut up, because I don't want to hear you say who you think his agent is, because you're a lying penis head, okay? Ooh. I want to figure out who his agent is, and I want to just follow him around. I just want to hang out with him. I just want to pick his brain and be like, hey, man, my name is Mario. I'm just your biggest fan. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you do or how you do it. But I love you, man. Like, you're unbelievable. You're my favorite player. Everybody's favorite player is a player. My favorite player is Kirk Cousins' agent. That guy's unbelievable. He's the real GOAT.
Oh, my gosh. Mario, it has absolutely been, like always, a joy to have you on. I know that we've done this for almost an hour and a half. My gosh, you've given up your time. It's almost, it's 8:30 my time. It's 9:30 Colorado time. Thank you so much, Mario, for being on. One last question. Is there any inside comment you can give from anybody you've worked with, or anything that was a hilarious statement that you want to go out with that would be just hilariously funny we can go out with the show with? I know you talked about that.
Okay, I don't know about hilarious, but I will say like a kind of comical thing. So one of the guys that I've worked with is Pat Surtain, and Pat's half brother lives with him. He was a football player, fantastic athlete too, and he doesn't know a lot of people out here. And so when I was at Pat's house, it was a couple months ago, I had asked his brother to come play pickup football with us. So for those of you that don't know, like, I'll organize pickup football games every once in a while. There's a handful of people that like I met through Twitter that we all play, and then some of my like high school and college friends. Just like a good time, get some people out there to go play football. throw it around, nothing too serious, put some flags on, we're all kind of older, slow white dudes, so we're not taking it too seriously. But I invited his brother to come play with us, and I kind of mentioned it to Pat. And I know Pat is a little bit competitive, and I was kind of talking him up, and I'm like, your brother's. I was like, your brother's coming out, Pat. You just wanted to come chill, just throw a few. It could be a lot of fun. And he's like, I could throw it a little bit. And I was like, really, Pat? He goes, yeah, man. Like ask anybody. The DBs, like, we do these drills like kind of before practice, and we'll like throw the football, and we gotta hit like a target. And I always hit my target. And I was like, all right, but do you throw to moving receivers? Like, do you throw to moving targets? And he's like, nah, we don't really do that. And I'm like, listen, Pat, you come out there, you might not want to play quarterback if that's the best you roll with, because I'm a pickup quarterback legend, okay? Not actually signed with the Broncos, like Patrick Chiotti had tweeted out. Graham, no, you're the GOAT, man. I appreciate you saying that.
Hang on, I'm trying to get the figure right. Whatever.
Down that way.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to appeal to Pat's competitive side. I'm like, what, Pat? Maybe you just come out and watch, because you're a very high profile athlete. You're obviously a much better athlete than me, but the last thing I would want to do for your ego is to embarrass you throwing the football around. He goes, Mario, I ain't worried. I'm like, okay, Pat, I'm just saying, like, you have everything to lose and nothing to gain if you do this. And I would hate to make you look bad, Pat. And so that was how I got Pat Surtain to come play pickup football with a bunch of us. And I made sure at first he came out there and he was just watching because his half brother was out there. And then I got him to throw a few, and he ended up playing a couple series. And I told him when he finally agreed to play, I said, Pat, you are not allowed to run. You are not allowed to jog. You are not allowed to jump. You are not allowed to do anything physical except throw a football. I was like, the last thing that I need is for anything to happen to the Broncos franchise cornerback, Pat Surtain. Yeah, Grant, what if Surtain tore his ACL playing pickup football with you? That's exactly what I said. Like, he had to be stationary. Okay, like when I say stationary, I mean he was not allowed to move. Okay, we were very careful. So it's literally like he did not move. He just sat back there and just threw the football like this. Okay, so that's my fun little anecdote that Pat Surtain was just kind of throwing guys. He was just throwing guys routes out there, and we're running around. So that was a fun time. Yeah, and he's not a good quarterback either. That's the funny thing. Like, he made a couple of throws. Like, he was decent, but I was expecting a lot more from him, honestly.
That's why he's a corner,
Exactly. He will not be backing up Stidham anytime soon.
Mario, like I said, always a pleasure. Really appreciate your insight, your commentary, your antics, the things you just throw out there, and just being human, just being human and being enjoying life. Really do enjoy it. The stories that you said at the beginning of the show was spectacular. Your family, your son, how you are as a father, as a dad, just amazing. I appreciate you. I absolutely welcome your time anytime you want to be on my show. It's an honor and privilege to have you. Absolutely, each and every time, whenever you're available. I would like to have you back on. Seriously, think about it. My voice is going out because I'm getting over this cold. I'd like to have you back on prior to the start of the season, so we can go over what we think the Broncos will do. We've done this, several times. So I'd like to have you back on for that if you're willing to do so.
Absolutely. I'm here for it.
Really would appreciate it. Everybody in the chat, we've had over 50 some odd people live in the chat just on YouTube. So, and at this late hour, that's tremendous.
That's awesome. We appreciate all of you. Thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you were entertained. That's all we're trying to do is just, entertain and provide some laughs and maybe a little bit of insight. And hopefully just everyone had a really good time, because I know
Look at this, Mario. There you go.
Well, hey, from the man Graham himself. You know what? If Graham thinks that, then I'm good with everything.
Wow, Glenn.
I don't know. I don't want to hear it, Glenn. Glenn said Mario truly is the best. No, Glenn, shut up. I don't believe you. Okay, it's all posturing at this point, Glenn. I'm not trying to hear any of that. And really, honestly, at this moment, like I'm kind of just look at this. I'm really distracted by what's happening with my light and my glasses. I'm trying to focus it, but like the camera's kind of backwards. But it kind of looks like a floating eyeball. Right?
Mario, yeah. I'm gonna give you.
I love you, Glenn.
Mario, I'm gonna give you the privilege of signing out before I hit the exit. Go ahead and say what. In fact, before you do the final sign out, say something about your business. I want you to promote your business. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm a body worker, manual therapist. I specialize in body balancing, trigger point therapy, myofascial release. I do cupping, athletic stretching, grassening, honestly, a little bit of everything. You know, you tell me what the problem is, I figure out what's causing it, and I do my best to fix it. If you have any questions at all, I have a website, vetanzetherapy.com. You can also feel free to slide into my DMs, but in like a very non-sexual, like very platonic way. Where am I? Right here. This thing, my mic's right here. Okay, at Vetanze Therapy. That's me on Twitter. Not X. It's not X. It's never going to be X. I'm going to call it Twitter and forget everybody that calls it X because that's silly. Anyway, I digress. If you have any questions at all, I'm honest to God, mean it. I'm more than willing to take it. I absolutely love my job. I absolutely love helping people any way that I can help take their pain away, give them relief. That's what I'm here for. And so, yeah, again, if you have any questions that aren't answered on my website, please feel free to hit me up on Twitter at Vetanze Therapy. You know, if you want to DM me, you want to at me, whatever. You want to say something about the show even, you have a question, you want to tell me how much you loved it, how much you hated it, good things, bad things, it doesn't matter. I can take it all. I've heard worse than anything anyone's to dish out. Yeah, anyway, I really appreciate the time. Bill, I always have so much fun with you. I appreciate you like letting me be myself and allowing me to entertain, even though it gets crazy, it goes off the rails, it's insanity. It's what I imagine, like doing a show with me, Bill, like I give you credit. I imagine that's like this is what it's like to have a 2.5-year-old, right? It's like you're chasing me all over the place. You can't get me to focus on one thing for too long. I scream randomly for no reason and raise my voice. I throw little temper tantrums. And then at the end of the day, it's all love, no matter what. So there it is. There it is.
Hey, come on, let's do it.
Put me on your podcast.
Come on, let's do it. Group love.
Put me on your podcast. It's exactly like having a toddler.
Mario, you are the best. Absolutely the best. Thanks once again for your time. I know we went way long. I know you got a child in bed. I know you want to be with your wife. Go be with your wife, my friend. Thank you so much for being on the show. Absolutely love you. Appreciate you. Thanks again for being on the show. There is the Mario Vetanze.
I will go be with my wife.
We're done. Good night. Bye-bye.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down 'cause the coast